Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Awakening Your Soul. My name is Lauren Cabalden. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. And this is Shannon Hibble. She's also a licensed MFT.
Today, Lauren and I are going to be talking about how families are involved in treatment and whether they should be involved in treatment.
Many families ask us tons of questions when their loved ones get into treatment and even prior to admission. My first recommendation to any families that I work with, particularly parents or spouses, is to get your own therapist. Having your own support while your loved one is doing their own work is so essential because they're going to be doing therapy, going to groups, talking about their deep-rooted issues, and it's important that you start to kind of do your own work so you're prepared and worked through a lot of your demons, a lot of your shadow, while your loved one is doing the same.
Yeah, so I'll speak on that. We get a lot of questions when it comes to how much is too much giving financially or even of their time. They ask a lot of questions as to, is this codependent or is this enabling? It's confusing because they see it as love. You're so scared and you can feel very powerless as a loved one because you're not in control of their choices and their behavior. And so a lot of times family members, the only thing they can feel like they have control over is by meeting their physical needs or their financial needs. But then what happens is family members grow resentful toward their loved one because they're giving more than they really want to.
So what are you saying the person who's struggling doing that causes this resentment?
So usually families grow resentful when their loved one doesn't appreciate them, right? And family members and parents feel that way a lot about their children, right? I'm giving so much to you, and do you really appreciate me for how much I'm doing for you? But when someone's in their disease, they are not going to be able to appreciate you. And so that is when the resentment flares up. And so, we coach the families at the family program on how to listen to yourself and what's really motivating you to meet these physical needs. And they get it and they leave and they feel empowered and they're going to go set boundaries with their loved one. And then they fall back into that pattern. And if I can be honest, it's hard to watch.
So I just want to kind of back up for a second. I know that we've been talking about codependency, enabling, and I just wanted to touch upon the family system. Some of you might have heard that, alcoholism or addiction is a family disease. And, that can be confusing because it might, you might think to yourself, well, my son or daughter is using, or my husband or my wife or my sister, but I'm not doing anything toxic or unhealthy. I'm just here trying to support them. Those words, addiction is a family disease, basically means that we all kind of have this role to play. You think about your own family and all the different roles that, your parents or your kids play, whether it's, the hero, the rescuer, the enabler, kind of the lost child or the lost person in the family that kind of disconnects emotionally. So everybody responds to the alcohol or the alcoholic or the addictive behavior. And I like to kind of externalize the behavior because it's not really the individual. The individual is, carrying out the unhealthy behaviors, but they're responding to everybody else in the family as well. So the enabler is the one that's kind of the rescuer. And we often see this trait with mothers, particularly, that are nurturing and want to rescue their son or daughter. And a lot of mothers that I know that we've spoken to, it's this palpable feeling that if I don't do something for my son, he will die, whether it's from overdose or not having a place to sleep or food to eat, and it's my fault.
To try to change, it is really hard. And it could feel like you're actually breaking the system. And you actually can feel like you're doing something bad by doing something differently. But what's so important is to do something differently because it's this system that is keeping the people in your family sick.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I actually want to talk about some things you can do differently as a family member. So something different is just saying no. That honestly seems so easy. When you feel in your being that you want to say no, say no.
And no is not mean. No is basically saying yes to yourself, but it's going to feel uncomfortable if you've always said yes. And one of my favorite tricks is to say no and I love you at the same time. And I even do that with clients when they're pushing our boundaries here at Akua. It's how do I say no with love and compassion?
What actually is mean is holding in what you're really feeling and then lashing out on your loved one. And that's usually what happens if you don't say no when you are needing to say no, is you hold it in, that resentment, and then something triggers it and you lash out and then you start to shame yourself. God, why did I do that? And then that makes you start to enable them even more because you feel guilty of the way that you treated your loved one. When you say no, your loved one is going to be mad. They're going to be angry. And that is really hard to tolerate if you're not used to having someone be mad at you. And so the other thing is not just say no, but do your own therapy. Because what happens to you when someone gets angry with you? It can affect you inside.
Another really good tool is practicing an I statement along with the no. So this is something that I like to teach my clients and families, and I use it every day with my friends and family and coworkers. And it basically is, I feel blank, and a feeling word. Everyone feels really cheesy when they're doing this, but it's super powerful. It's, I feel blank when you blank because blank. And you must be really specific. You can't say, I feel like you're a jerk when you talk to me like this. You have to say, I feel frustrated when you drink, even when when I've asked you not to in the house, because it's disrespectful and it hurts me. So when we lay that out, no one can fault you for your feelings. Your feelings are always valid. And when you're demonstrating for someone a specific action that they're doing, you're now giving them the choice whether or not they want to hurt you.
It's difficult sometimes to actually speak in a rational way when you're having someone yelling at you. You can go into a trauma response and it's really difficult to say, I feel this when you blank. And so that's why it's so important to do your own work in therapy, because it helps you to be able to hold on to yourself internally. If you can do anything differently, go to your own therapy. If you have a loved one that's struggling with mental health or addiction, that's the biggest thing you can do for them, is to work on yourself.
My favorite saying is turn the lens off of them and onto yourself. And that's something to really focus on. The more you love yourself and build your own self-worth and do your own self-care things like yoga, go get your nails done, get a massage, go to therapy, Al-Anon meetings or support groups, CODA meetings, which is Codependence Anonymous, can be really powerful to give you that support system that your loved one is getting in treatment. But I always say that just the more you focus on yourself, the more you'll be able to show up in the most loving, mindful, boundaried way for your loved one once they complete treatment.
So I hope that you can watch this and feel empowered to say no and go get a therapist.
Thank you for watching this week's edition of Awaken Your Soul. I hope you got something out of it. All that we ask is you please subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you next week.